in this agency to come out and do this publicly, that is stonewalling, that's a failure of leadership, and that is why I've called for your resignation. And if I don't get an answer to these questions, I don't want an applause. Please don't do that for me. If I don't get an answer to these questions, if I don't get an answer that you've had a month to respond to, and the remaining ones, as of today, I'll be informing leadership that I'm putting a hold on any en bloc nominations until I get a response. And in 2 weeks, if I don't get a response, I'm going to deny quorum and markup in as many committees as I can until I get a response. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Now it's Senator Booker's turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, you're in charge of your agency. The buck stops with you, correct?
I'm in charge of my agency, what?
The buck stops with you,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
And you had to swear an oath to the Constitution before you took this job, right?
Correct.
So one of the most sacrosanct ideals of our nation, enshrined in our Constitution, is freedom, is liberty.
Mm-hmm.
It is an idea that the government has a very high standard should they take away liberty and freedom from an American citizen. How many U.S. citizens has DHS detained as of last October?
Senator, if you're talking about detained and arrested, is that those that have been violating and obstructing our law enforcement operations? Is that what you're referencing? Because it could be hundreds and hundreds. We have faced violent riots across the country,
you are
specifically in Portland and in
the only
Minneapolis.
people you've detained are committing crimes, but you and I both know
No, I
that's
haven't
not true.
said that. I didn't
so then
say that. I
how
asked
many
which ones you
people
were referencing.
have you detained?
I can't give you an accurate number because we've literally detained and arrested many for those obstruction of law enforcement operations, and
So
also
public
others
records,
that had probable
let me tell you
cause,
what my staff researched.
and then released once
May I
yes.
continue? Public records are showing that over 170 incidents of your agency unlawfully taking away the liberties and freedoms of American citizens. This includes 20 children, 20 American kids that your agency detained. How long can your agency detain an American citizen?
We don't detain children and separate them from their parents. Those parents have chosen
You're telling me
to
under
keep their
oath
child
right now.
with
Hold on.
them.
I just want to be clear. You're telling me under oath right now that your agency has not detained American children.
Those parents have chosen to keep their children with them. We don't separate families like the Biden
hold on.
administration
Let me
did.
continue.
We keep them
Let me-
together, and parents have the
please let me
option
continue.
on if they want
How
their child with them or not with them.
long do detentions last when you detain an American citizen? How long do they last?
We don't detain American citizens, and if there's probable cause.
Let me give you, because you are not speaking truthfully under oath. Isaiah Pena Salcedo, a U.S. citizen living in California, was detained more than 70 hours, almost 3 days, even after he showed ICE agents his passport. My colleague, Senator Blumenthal, gave you example after example. He brought people here who had something else we Americans consider sacrosanct, our home, our property. Your masked agents jumping out of unmarked cars have broken into considerable property damage occurring into American citizens' homes. Case after case of this, and you sit here before me and claim the buck stops with you, but you don't even know the names of these individuals. I ran New Jersey's largest municipal police department. When my officers engaged in misconduct, you can be damn well sure I knew about it and I investigated it. And yet you have situations where your officers are violating the sanctity of people's homes, arresting and detaining them and holding their children. And you're acting as if you don't know about it and saying that under oath. Miramar Martinez, who is here right now, on her way to church, an American citizen going to church, not just to worship, but to donate clothing. Your officers shot her multiple times. The case was thrown out of court, and you represent here that you don't know about it. In New Jersey, are you aware of your officers' activities in places like schools? Are you aware of your officers' activities at our public schools?
Sir, we don't go into schools and do targeted law enforcement operations. We do targeted law enforcement operations like other agencies
So
and
you're
law
telling me that
enforcement
ICE
do.
officers entered the grounds of a high school in Minneapolis? That's a fact. Elementary school children in New Jersey are terrified of your agents. When they came upon a school bus stop, they fled. Another school, a higher education, Columbia University, your agents reportedly lied to students, told them they were searching for a missing person to gain access to private spaces, to non-public areas of campus. Secretary Noem, these are kids. They're terrified in our communities. How do you think that affects them when children in my state go running, fleeing, and often you all pursue children, throwing them to the ground, getting on their backs, putting them in handcuffs? I want to talk to you about this incredible empire of for-profit companies that are profiting at rates we've never seen, and the way you're using money. Let's drill down on the warehouses that DHS has been buying over the last several months, totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. Are you familiar with the acquisition of a warehouse DHS recently bought in Roxbury Township, New Jersey?
Yes.
You are familiar with that?
I'm
Do you
familiar
know
that
how
it's-
much you spent for it?
No, sir, I do not.
$129.3 million. Do you know how much it was assessed for in New Jersey?
Sir, we're purchasing centers across the country to build efficiency into our detention system.
Efficiency to
so that
me,
we
as a
can,
person who's run tight budgets before and had taxpayer dollars, you paid $129.3 million for a facility in my state that was assessed at less than half of that, at $62 million. To work for a president that says he's a great deal maker, I can't believe he thinks that you're a great deal maker. But what's worse than that is that the Roxbury Township Council, comprised entirely of Republicans, voted unanimously early this year to oppose that facility. My office tried to facilitate a meeting between DHS and local officials so that ICE could hear their concerns, yet DHS did not even respond. That is unacceptable, that you all would enter a town, you wouldn't even follow environmental reviews or have conversations with local officials about the resources, from emergency resources to fire resources and more, that you're going to pull down. You didn't even have a conversation. Secretary Noem, do you comply with court orders?
yes, we do
Your
comply with
agency
court
complies
orders.
with court orders.
Yes, we comply
That
with federal
again,
court
you were
orders.
saying under oath that you do, and yet we know in January the chief judge, Republican appointed for the Federal District of Minnesota, found that ICE had violated nearly 100 court orders since January 1st alone. In my state of New Jersey, last month, the chief of staff to Deputy Attorney General admitted in my state that in the New Jersey District Court that the government had violated 52 separate court orders, all involving cases where immigrants successfully challenged the legality of their detention. So this again is a constitution that you swore an oath to, and one of the most important ideals is that no one is above the law. You are violating the separation of powers, violating court orders, and routinely violating the civil rights of Americans. This is a reckless and out of control agency that you are responsible for. You seem to have no situational awareness whatsoever of some of the most egregious examples of Americans being completely attacked, violated, undermined in accordance with our laws by their own government. And this is what is phenomenal to me, is immigration was your president's #1 issue, overwhelmingly popular with the American people. But now it's overwhelmingly unpopular. And it's not because you are deporting dangerous people that everybody here wants out of our country. No, it's because you're going into our schools. You're terrorizing our children. You're detaining children. You're arresting Americans. You're breaking into our homes. You're terrorizing our streets. You're violating our rights to peacefully protest again and again and again.
None of
and then
that
when
is
a court tells you
None
to
of
stop,
that is true.
and then when a court
You are
tells
trying
you to stop,
to impede
you
us
violate
from enforcing
judges'
the law
orders. Not in
and
a
getting
partisan
dangerous
way,
criminals off of our streets
Republican-appointed
so
and
we don't have more
Democratic-appointed.
families like the ones that are
Don't
sitting
sit
behind
there
me.
and tell me that
Lost
you are
their children. They're
responsible
gone forever.
for the running of your agency when you're not even aware. Either you are utterly incompetent or you are violating laws with impunity. You should step down from your position. If you don't, you should be removed by this president. And if not, Congress should impeach you.
I appreciate the encouragement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Secretary Noem, for being here. Just over a year ago, President Trump took office. At the time he did so, he came in with a significant mandate or set of mandates. One of those mandates included the task of having to address a veritable tidal wave of illegal immigration that had occurred during the 4-year period between 2021 and 2025. A period of time in which an unknown number of people entered the United States borders unlawfully. Some have said it's maybe 10 or 15 million. Some have said it's more. It's difficult to ascertain. But what we do know is that many of those same people who were encouraging those things at that time are the same people who are now opposing President Trump and his efforts and your efforts and those of your department to remove those individuals. That was part of his mandate, clean up the mess. Now, under ordinary circumstances, I would think that when there are laws of the United States that have been broken, most or all members of this body, if asked, should those who have violated the law in coming to our country be returned to their own countries? I would think we'd all be able to raise our hands in support of that. We had doubt cast on that last week during the President's State of the Union address, when President Trump made the point, quote, the first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. He asked those of us who agreed with him to stand. And stunningly, a whole lot of my colleagues and a lot of our counterparts on the House of Representatives side declined to stand, refused to stand. These things are not without consequence. Illegal immigration is not something that poses no risk to the American people, to the security of the homeland, to the safety of individual families. It brings tremendous risk, and we've felt that. Some families represented here have felt that all too personally, and my heart goes out to each of them. We also face another threat as we approach another election this fall, a threat that, due to a ripple in existing federal law under the National Voter Registration Act, it's stunningly easy for someone in almost any state of the union to walk into a DMV, fill out a form to apply for a driver's license, which you can do as a non-citizen in almost any state. And by merely checking a box and signing your name, you can register to vote, including to vote.
Of cash. Do you remember the airplane flew over there? It was a Boeing 757. There was 2 of them loaded. They took out all the seats. It was loaded with green cash. So much cash that you could, it was in Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. They got all the cash from all the banks. They put it, and they flew it to Iran. I never knew a president had that power. I'm going to maybe try it sometime if it's okay. I think I'm going to do it. I'll fly it somewhere. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. 2 planes loaded from floor to ceiling. Big planes, Boeing 757s, taken over there and given cash. In addition to that, he was giving them billions of dollars. But worse, he was giving them the right to have the path to a nuclear weapon. And that deal expired. A lot of people said, oh, you terminated it. Well, it was going to be terminated anyway because it expired. It gave them the right to have top-of-the-line nuclear weapon. If they had, because they're crazy, just like the people on my right during the State of the Union. I looked at them, I said, you're crazy? These people are crazy. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. All right, how about 1 or 2 more?
Mr. President,
Go ahead, please.
You just heard that the president is thinking about punishing Spain. What are your thoughts spontaneously on this, and what can you do to,
Well, the answer on that is quite simple. We are trying to convince Spain to catch up with the 3% or 3.5%, which we agreed on in NATO. And as the president said, it's correct. Spain is the only one who is not willing to accept that. And we are trying to convince them that this is a part of our common security, that we all have to comply with these numbers, and this is 3.5 for military and another 1.5 for our military infrastructure. So Spain has to comply with that.
Spain has been very, very uncooperative, and so has UK. Now, the second one is shocking, but this is not the age of Churchill. I will say the UK has been very, very uncooperative with that stupid island that they and took a 100-year lease, having to do with perhaps indigenous people claiming the island that never even saw the island before. What's that all about? And they ruin relationships. It's a shame. It's and that country, UK, and I love that country. I love it. My mother was born there. I love it. My mother was born there. My father was born, like he knows all about my father. My father was born there. So, you know, very places that you sort of automatically very feel warmly about. But the UK, what they're doing with energy and what they're doing with immigration is horrible. You have the North Sea. Somebody said yesterday, what would you do if you were the UK? Open up the North Sea. They got windmills all over the place that are ruining the country, ruining the landscapes, ruining the beautiful fields. Open up the North Sea. It's one of the greatest, think of it, they buy their energy from Norway, which gets the energy, the oil, from the North Sea. So Norway drills in the North Sea and sells it to UK. And UK has a better part of the North Sea. Open up that, and number two, illegal immigration. They got to solve that problem. And I must say, that's not only UK, that's other parts of the European Union that have the same problem. Immigration and energy. The energy is through the roof, the highest in the world. And the immigration is, I mean, you know, look, you have places where in the UK, you have a terrible mayor of London, terrible. He's an incompetent guy. But you have Sharia courts. You don't have Sharia courts. You don't want Sharia courts. You have Sharia courts adjudicating law. So it's very simple. Immigration, very importantly, immigration and energy. And you bring it back. Otherwise, you're not going to bring it back. Okay. One more. Go ahead.
I have a question for the Chancellor.
Yes, please.
To the Chancellor, Chancellor Merz.
Yeah.
You've called for unity and joint force in this moment against Iran. What does that look like to you? And then, Mr. President, where is getting a deal with Russia and Ukraine on your priority list right now?
Okay, where you go?
So we, as I said in Germany the last 2 days, we are supporting the United States and Israel to get rid of this terrible terrorist regime. And we are looking forward to a day after, and we have to talk about the strategy. What is following after this regime is away, and we have to strategize on this entire region. And we are having a high interest in common approach and common work and what we can do, and this is important not just for the Americans. This is extremely important for Europe and extremely important for Israel and their security. So we are really looking forward to find ways how to deal about the day after.
And as far as Russia, Ukraine, where is it on my priority list? Very high. We thought that, I thought it was going to be one of the easier ones. I've settled 8 wars, and actually maybe one more than that. But minimum 8 wars, big ones, potential India, Pakistan, big wars, very important, big ones. I thought this was going to be much easier than it is. There's tremendous hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky, tremendous hatred. I've seen a lot of hatred in my life, but I think this is about top scale. I believe it's going to happen. Sometimes I blame one, sometimes I blame the other. I think it's going to happen, but it's high on my list. Not in that it affects the United States so much, because it's very far away, but last week and for the last 4 weeks actually, 32,000 soldiers died. 32,000. And it's been averaging 25 to 30,000 soldiers a month have been dying in that stupid war. And I'd love to see it ended. It's the worst that there has been since World War II.
If you can't get a deal, what will that mean for you?
All you can do is do your best, you know. It takes two to tango, and they have to get along. They have to be able to talk to each other. They hate each other a lot. That has an impact, you know. It really has an impact. It's bad for both. The saddest is that if the election weren't rigged, my election, that war would have never taken place. And you know what else wouldn't have taken place? Allowing 25 million people to pour through an open border, that wouldn't have taken place. A lot of things would have been different. But we're doing very well, and I think a big factor in this world and future factor is what we're doing right now with Iran. If we don't stop them, or if we didn't stop them, or if we didn't start, they've been decimated. But if we didn't do what we're doing right now, you would have had a nuclear war, and they would have taken out many countries, because you know what? They're sick people. They're mentally ill, sick people. They're angry. They're crazy. They're sick. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you guys. Keep moving.
It was open up the North Sea. It's one of the great. They would have used it. All right, have everything, including plane loads of cash. Do you remember the airplane flew over there? It was a Boeing 7. Never have had true peace in the Middle East if Iran was allowed.
I got to rewind it a little bit, Chad, because we missed a lot of it.
If Iran was allowed,
watching Noem.
by them, so much that have no weapon. They have no weapon.
We're gonna go back over there to Noem after we watch this.
What country are you from?
I'm from Germany.
We need to go through and investigate all these unfair trading practices, the kinds of things you talked about, and make sure that we're protecting U.S. economic security. We know there are countries.
How are we going to treat Germany?
Well,
I think you should hit them very, very hard.
You knew he was right there when he said that, Mr. President. They have expressed an interest. Germany's been quite constructive in wanting to move forward.
We missed a
helpful,
lot of it, Chad,
because
we'll
talk to them as well.
We were watching
I will say every single country wants to make the deal they already have. In other words, a deal that we have using the other authority, they want to make the same deal. And we'd like to see, actually, we're going to adjust it somewhat upward, actually, but they all want to stay in the deal, and so we'll probably be able to do that pretty easily.
Mr. President, Ukraine, after all, Iran won't be able to deliver drones to Russia anymore. So what does this more mean to Ukraine? And having Chancellor Merkel sitting next to you, who would you call if you want to talk to Europe? And Chancellor Merkel, you've just been in China. The president.
Who are you? What country are you from?
I'm from Germany.
Okay, I thought so. I could see.
So, Mr. Chancellor, you have been in China, and the president.
She likes you.
In China.
I don't know.
Will you be talking about China and will you visit?
We'll be talking about China, yes.
And what about you?
I'll be going to China in a little while. Every time you meet, you talk about China. We respect China. I do. We both do, I think. But it's always a topic of conversation. We've had a very good relationship with China. We used to lose a tremendous amount of money with China, and that's no longer the case. We have a very, very good relationship with China, and we have a very good relationship with Germany. All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've seen countries around the world, many of whom don't usually work together, working with the United States on Iran. Whether it's Saudi Arabia working with Israel, Qatari shooting down Iranian aircraft, and we've also seen European countries step up. Why are we seeing such unity around the world against Iran?
That's a great point. Look, they're just evil. It's not the politics; it's their whole philosophy. It's their whole where they come from. It's terrible. where they killed 35,000. I thought it was 32. Now it turns out it's much more than 35,000 people. And in some cases using machine guns with people that have no weapon. They have no weapon, and they're being machine gunned. They're being sniped from buildings. They're hitting the people with snipers right through the eyes. It's just a very evil ideology. And nobody's really seen anything like it. As I said, even the fact that they've attacked all of their neighbors, and the neighbors weren't attacking. They thought they'd maybe sit it out or what. They've hit Qatar, they've hit UAE, they've hit Saudi Arabia, they've hit Oman. They were helping us negotiate. They got hit. Everybody got hit because they're evil and they're bad. It's a bad seed, and somebody had to do it. And it should have been done sometime during a 47-year period, because so much death has been caused by them, so much unbelievable death. From Germany, too. Germany's been hit. Everybody's been hit by them. It's an evil ideology, and I've never been, look, I've done a lot of good things. So many people are saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. You see it in the streets of Los Angeles. They have thousands of people. I saw it the other day, pictures of Donald Trump. And I'm looking, I'm on the phone, probably talking to you. And I'm looking, and I see my picture. I say, oh no, it's another, protest. I see my, and then I started saying, boy, they were very friendly people. And then I saw a woman hugging the picture of me. I said, what's going on? And it turned out to be, these are Iranian people that live in the United States.
So many.
Thousands and thousands. You saw the rallies. And in New York, too, they had a big rally by pictures all over the place. The fact is that people are happy what we did. And you could never, and I've always said it, you could never have had true peace in the Middle East if Iran was allowed to go, even beyond the nuclear. If Iran was allowed to have look at all the missiles they built. A lot have been now taken out by us, and a lot have been expended. But they have thousands of missiles in a fairly short period of time. And I'll go two things. The attack that we did, known as Midnight Hammer, had we not done that, Iran would have had a very powerful nuclear weapon within 1 month. We did it. It was great timing, but, and you've been able to see that too. The other thing was Barack Hussein Obama made maybe the worst deal I've ever seen, because he gave all power in the Middle East to Iran. He went the exact opposite way, and I terminated that. If I didn't terminate that deal, they would be sitting with a massive nuclear weapon 3 years ago, which would have been used already on Israel at least, and other countries also. And we wouldn't be talking about it right now. But if I didn't terminate the deal that Obama made, giving them everything, including plane loads of cash. Do you remember the airplane flew over there? It was a Boeing 757. There was two of them, loaded. They took out all the seats. It was loaded with green cash. So much cash that it was in Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. They got all the cash from all the banks. They put it, and they flew it to Iran. I never knew a president had that power. I'm going to maybe try it sometime if it's okay. I think I'm going to do it. I'll fly it somewhere. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. 2 planes loaded from floor to ceiling. Big planes, Boeing 757s, taken over there and given cash. In addition to that, he was giving them billions of dollars. But worse, he was giving them the right to have the path to a nuclear weapon. And that deal expired. A lot of people said, oh, you terminated it. Well, it was going to be terminated anyway because it expired. It gave them the right to have top-of-the-line nuclear weapon. If they had, because they're crazy, just like the people on my right during the State of the Union. I looked at them, I said, you're crazy? These people are crazy. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. All right, how about 1 or 2 more?
Mr. President.
Go ahead, please.
You just heard that the president is thinking about punishing Spain. What are your thoughts spontaneously on this, and what can you do to,
Well, the answer on that is quite simple. We are trying to convince Spain to catch up with the 3% or 3.5%. which we agreed on in NATO, and as the President said, it's correct, Spain is the only one who is not willing to accept that, and we are trying to convince them that this is a part of our common security, that we all have to comply with these numbers, and this is 3.5 for military and another 1.5 for our military infrastructure, so Spain has to comply with that.
Spain has been very, very uncooperative.
True, based on DHS's own data, is that less than 14% of those arrested by ICE and CBP have previously been charged with or convicted of violent crimes. Lies had become the pattern or practice of Kristi Noem's DHS. In the fall of last year, Secretary Noem asserted that no American citizens have been arrested or detained, despite more than 170 verified reports to the contrary. During a House Homeland Security Committee oversight hearing recently, Secretary Noem claimed that DHS had not deported veterans, not under this administration. And seconds later, Representative Magaziner presented via a video call Se-Jun Park, a veteran who earned a Purple Heart, but was deported by Secretary Noem's DHS. And so it comes as no surprise that not just the Secretary directly, but her representatives within the department have repeatedly lied to the American people about how the officers and agents under her charge have beaten, tased, shot at, and killed. Secretary Noem, before you even knew the facts or even allowed for a credible investigation to be conducted, you called Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists for exercising their First Amendment rights. And just last week, DHS lied yet again about abandoning a Rohingya refugee, a nearly blind man who couldn't speak or understand English, in the parking lot of a closed coffee shop, only for him to die in the freezing streets of Buffalo. These are not accusations, colleagues. I submit for the record reports, declarations, other documents confirming these lies. For all these reasons and more, Secretary Noem, you should resign, or the President should fire you, or the House should vote to impeach.
Did you want those put in the record? Without objection. Secretary Noem, in a couple minutes, if you want to respond. If you don't want to, I'll go to Senator Moody.
I just wish that Senator Padilla would have used his time to talk about Kate Steinle or other families that lost loved ones that aren't here anymore because of violent, illegal criminals that are in this country that we are charged with removing to protect American citizens. He didn't use any of his time to talk about victims that have been perpetuated by Joe Biden's invasion over the southern border. He didn't talk about the 1.7 billion lives that were saved by the amount of drugs that we've stopped in the last year from coming into our country and killing Americans and many other people. He didn't talk about the fact that we have the lowest murder rate in the last 125 years because of President Trump and the work that he has done to keep Americans safe. He didn't talk about the fact that American citizens should be the priority in this country because they're American citizens. I know he's very concerned about illegal aliens, but my job as a Secretary of Homeland Security is to get up every day and to put American citizens first and keep them safe here in the homeland. And I'll continue to defend the homeland every moment of every day that I get the chance and that I'm blessed to. Thank you.
Senator Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, for being here today. I know it's been a long morning, and certainly we appreciate you being here to answer some really tough questions. But I think questions that are important to have for the American people to know what their government is doing and how it's placing their interests first, finally, and caring about the sovereignty and safety and security and stability of this country. And I know President Trump came in on day one and said, we're taking this back. We've just witnessed years and years of devastation to our communities as a result of a president who was asleep at the wheel or allowed the radicals to run the White House and just pretty much abolished ICE, abolished Border Patrol, basically. I mean, just in your understanding, I know you have previously served as a congresswoman, as a governor, but just in your understanding, have you ever seen anything like the dereliction of duty by a president as it relates to immigration and the safety of a nation?
No, it was alarming, and under that invasion, every state was a border state. Even though I was from South Dakota and the governor there, we were the first state to deploy National Guard down to help support Texas in their efforts to keep our country safe, because we saw millions of people coming into this country unvetted. We saw other countries sending their criminals and emptying out their prisons and their mental health institutes and sending people to our country to make them our problem and to deal with and to try to protect our American citizens from any crimes that they would commit. So that's why I took this job, and why I'm blessed and honored that President Trump has asked me to do this job, is because I get the chance every single day to try to stop the damage that invasion has corrected and to try to make sure that America is safe here on our homeland.
Your predecessor sat right there in front of this committee. I sure wish I would have been on this committee at the time. At the time, I was the Florida Attorney General dealing with the effects and consequences, the jeopardy to the safety of Floridians as a result of President Biden and his policies. But your predecessor, Mayorkas, sat right there and said under oath that the border was secure and that they were following the laws. And in fact, when I knew with my team, my great team in Florida, not only within the Attorney General's office, but with the sheriffs across the state, local law enforcement, they saw what was happening. They saw the trafficking of children. They saw the peddling of poison in our communities. They saw what was happening as a result of an unencumbered border, a non-existent border, and the effects it was having in our state. I saw that firsthand. In fact, President Biden came in, and in his policies, and I think it's really important that we put this in perspective, because we have some families here today with us that have lost loved ones. And I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for reminding us of the duty that we owe the American people to protect them through our policies, and not just adopting good policies like here in the Congress, but making sure they are faithfully executed and enforced by the executive branch, which is what the Constitution requires of our president. And so I appreciate you being here and reminding us all of the solemn responsibility and duties that we owe you. And we owe every American out there that's trusted us with these roles. President Biden came in and upended precedent of Democratic and Republican presidents. And that precedent was to deport those here illegally that had committed felony crimes, from trafficking to violent crimes to other types of crimes where they would have been deported. They stopped doing that. They reversed that policy. We also saw policies at the border that required more and more people to be pushed in. I would say, and I said many times, they are requiring a certain number of people every day to be pushed in, quotas, and they were demanding that they process faster until vetting was practically non-existent. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember that anywhere between 11 million and the 20 million people that came in, we were talking about the fact that encountered people were on the terrorist watch list, had been murderers, had been rapists, had been drug traffickers. We had encountered those people that were trying to come in. But can you acknowledge, and do you remember, that there were many gotaways, millions, that we have no idea their background? We have no idea why they didn't walk up and go to the welcoming committee, which was what President Biden rolled out. We don't know their backgrounds, and we don't know where they are today. Is that correct?
Yes, and because the Biden administration pulled Border Patrol agents off the border and used them to process people and to feed people and to move paperwork, great chunks of our border had no surveillance at all. There was no security on other chunks of our border, and the cartel used that as a mechanism to divert attention. They would push thousands of people across the border in locations so that the other part of the border miles down could be exposed, and they could move their human trafficking and their drugs across the border unimpeded. The Biden administration facilitated that and gave the cartels exactly what they needed to enrich themselves, to commit their crimes, crimes, to build themselves up and perpetuate more violence. And that's why we're dealing with cartels now that are foreign terrorist organizations that are everywhere in this country. Years ago, you wouldn't even heard of foreign gangs like MS-13 or TDA. In fact, TDA didn't have a presence.
Taking over apartment complexes.
Yes,
But we sure saw
absolutely.
that during the Biden administration.
Yeah, Jocelyn
and in
Nunn-
addition
Jocelyn
to breaking down any sense of border, pushing more and more in, more and more, to where the Border Patrol said they were telling us they were asking us for our advice how not to stop it, but how they could process faster. They also built programs to make it easier during that surge, overwhelming surge, using apps to make it easier to come over here. And many of those folks were not vetted. In fact, we found them committing crimes in our nation after they came over on the app. Is that correct?
That is
An app
correct.
I alleged was illegal and couldn't be done. But yet they pushed forward, even though we were experiencing a historic surge and influx at our border. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
In fact, some Democratic states even had to declare an emergency based on Biden's policies and what was going on, right?
That is correct.
And they declared an emergency and they demanded more money from the administration because they couldn't keep pace with the emergency that the Democratic President Biden and his radical handlers created.
Correct.
And at the same time as Florida Attorney General, I got calls from around my state that drug traffickers that were prosecuted here that were not American citizens, but they were incarcerated in federal prisons. So I want to underscore this. The only reason they're in America is because they were drug traffickers. They were not American citizens. We brought them here. We prosecuted them here. And they were serving an incarcerative portion of their sentence. And after that, instead of deporting them back to their country after they did that, they were pushing them back into the communities where they were prosecuted, even though they weren't citizens. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And did you know that during that time period, when I pressed for information on who they were and where they were going and where they were being pushed, do you know that they stymied our efforts and would not give us that information? Would you say that what you are faced with as a secretary is unlike any successor has had to deal with in terms of cleaning up a dangerous, threatening situation created by their predecessor?
Yes, absolutely. And it's not just the illegal immigration situation. It's the crime. It's the amount of individuals in this country that wish to do us harm that they let in, the amount of known and suspected terrorists that we know are here that we need to find and remove before they perpetuate harm on this country, to the neglect at FEMA, the politicization of FEMA, how they only did disaster response to individuals who aligned with the Democratic Party and their ideals and ignored other families who were suffering and had lost everything. What we saw as far as not investing in Secret Service and TSA and intelligence and analysis. And then CISA was manipulated and censoring people's First Amendment rights. It was deciding what was misinformation and disinformation and trying to manipulate election outcomes, and that has been fixed. So under the 23 agencies.
How important is it? In Florida, I was so proud of my state. When we had an administration that came in and said, we're going to put the American interest safety first again. And it was so clear who supports that at the State of the Union.
Yep.
Every one of the counties, 67 counties in my state signed up and said, we will help you. We will enter in agreements with you. We will help you track these people down that should not be here, that have committed crimes. We will work with you. I, as a senator, said, let's get you money to help reimburse them for those efforts. Does that make a difference? And did you see a difference in the way you engaged with states and the stability and safety of all involved when you didn't have people working with you hand in hand?
Oh, absolutely. And we're thrilled. We have over 1,400 law enforcement agreements through the 287G program at the state and local level that have partnered with us to do operations to address public safety threats and to get them out of communities. And those individuals that are local law enforcement are critical partners in the success and safety of the American people.
And I would just ask for you to keep engaging with those sheriffs of the local communities, asking how they think best to safely do these operations. I think
Just spent yesterday with all of our sheriffs, with
That's
all
great
four
to hear.
associations and hundreds of sheriffs, thanking them for the work they do.
Thank you for being here.
Senator Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to the families who are here who have lost loved ones, both who lost loved ones to violence perpetrated by immigrants, but also to those who have been seriously injured by ICE agents, and to those watching who have had family members killed by ICE agents. Madam Secretary, I want to ask you about one of the first claims you made in the immediate aftermath of the shooting of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. You accused them both, I think, within hours of engaging in domestic terrorism. You've testified earlier that you did so based on preliminary field reports. Who told you that these two victims were engaged in domestic terrorism? Where did you get that information from?
I've said before, and will repeat again for you, Senator, that those reports were coming from on-the-ground agents that were there. It was a chaotic scene.
So you spoke to agents on the ground who told you they were domestic terrorism?
Yes.
Domestic terrorists?
My team was working with me, talking to those agents on the ground to relay as much information as possible that we could to the American people.
Your team told you that people in Minneapolis said they were domestic terrorists. Did they tell you whether they had any basis for that claim within either minutes or hours of the shooting of Alex Preddy and Renee Good?
Sir, if you look back at the day of January 24th, there was a press conference earlier in the day, and then I held one hours later.
So I'm asking
and we were also
I'm asking you, did you determine whether there was any basis for the sensational claim, a claim that proved to be utterly false, that these two victims were engaged in domestic terrorism?
There is an investigation ongoing. The FBI is leading that. There's also internal investigations that are ongoing.
I'm asking you
we'll continue to bring the facts forward.
Excuse me, Madam Secretary. I'm asking about your statements. In the immediate aftermath of these shootings, your statements based on completely unvetted information that if it was even provided to you proved to be utterly false, that you were content to tell the whole country. Do you have any concern about misleading the whole country? Don't you think in the immediate aftermath of a shooting that you should provide only vetted information to the public? How do you imagine you're going to gain the trust of the American people if you're pushing out false information about the shooting of American citizens?
I work every day to get factual information to the American
you
people.
Didn't on that day. You didn't on the day that Alex Preddy was shot, and you certainly didn't on the day Renee Good was shot. You weren't getting out good information. You were making a spurious claim that has caused endless injury to the victims' families on the basis of God knows what. And then your agency doesn't allow local investigators. They essentially push away independent investigators. How is the public to have any confidence in investigations done of excessive use by ICE agents if, number one, you make immediate and false statements about the victims, and number two, you don't let any independent agency conduct an investigation? How is the public supposed to believe anything your agency says or finds?
These investigations are being done in the same way that they always are.
No, they're
and
not being
the
done.
FBI is
They're not
leading.
being
There
done
are
the way they
internal
always were,
investigations
because
as
you're not
well.
allowing-
In these situations,
you're not
ICE has an
allowing-
internal
excuse me,
investigation.
excuse me.
Well, would you like to hear about the investigations that are
Excuse
ongoing?
me, you're not allowing state and local investigators to
That is
participate.
not my decision.
And furthermore,
The Department of Justice and the FBI decides how
they're not
investigations
being
go.
conducted in the way investigations are always done. Are you telling me that in the case of Miramar Martinez, that having an agent involved in shooting her, drive a vehicle that was used to ram into her vehicle, drive that vehicle, that evidence away from the scene and 1,000 miles to Maine, you're telling me that's the way investigations are always done? That you let an agent involved in an officer-involved shooting drive a key piece of evidence 1,000 miles away? Is that how you conduct investigations at DHS?
I'm not conducting these investigations into these. The Department of Justice with the FBI is conducting those investigations, and CBP.
For how investigations are conducted when
we follow
when agents under your control are engaged in the
investigations.
use of force?
The investigations into our officers have not changed under my leadership or the president's leadership than what they were under the previous administration.
That's being done by Pam Bondi's Justice Department. I'm not responsible for that.
Our internal investigations are following the same policies
that they
always
Stephen
have.
Miller, so I'm not responsible for that either. But you are responsible. You are responsible. You could insist on independent investigations, but you're not. You could wait until there's good information after a shooting before you go to the press and the public and mislead them. Let me ask you about a different subject, and that is the waste of resources at your agency, the continued allegations of favoritism and contracting, and let me in particular focus on the $220 million ad campaign, many of which feature you very prominently. An ad campaign that is more expensive than the whole budget for One Fight After Another or any Hollywood blockbuster film. So let me ask you, you said that the president approved this vast expenditure on a media campaign that largely profiles you. How do you know that? Did he approve it to you personally?
This media campaign was critical in telling the world and this country that we are enforcing the laws in the United States of America. That if you're in your country illegally, then you should leave now, or if you want the chance to come back to the United States someday in the future. If you don't, you will be detained and will be removed and never get the chance to come back. It's been extremely effective in sending the message.
Madam Secretary, how do you know the president approved of this $220 million contract?
We had conversations and worked with OMB to make sure that the funding was there.
Excuse me, I just want to clarify. So you had conversations directly with the president where he approved this $220 million ad campaign that significantly features you?
Sir, this campaign was talking about making sure that people knew that our laws were being enforced.
Again, I want to make sure that
we
we're not
continue to go through the process. It was a competitive bid campaign. I had nothing of choosing.
Excuse me, so the president approved this expenditure?
Sir, I've been explaining this to you, how it, when it was a competitive process, the career officials at the Department of Homeland Security
you don't want to
chose
confirm
the
the
best
president's role in this, and I can understand why, but you say it was a competitive process, and yet this contract went to a company that didn't exist 2 weeks before they got the contract.
Sir, I can't speak to that. I don't know the name of that company.
You're saying you can't speak to it, but let me ask you this. Are you saying it's just a coincidence? It's just a happy circumstance? It's just a fortuitous event that 143 million of that went to a subcontractor that you worked with extensively as governor in South Dakota or during your campaign, that is just coincidental?
The same process was followed for this media contract than any other media contract that's happened.
Just a coincidence.
At the Department of Homeland Security, I had nothing to do and no political
had nothing to do with it.
No choosing of who the contractors. And we don't have a legal process for weighing in on subcontractors. It doesn't exist.
Excuse me, just a coincidence also then that this $143 million.
To ask questions, you should want the answers.
I'm trying to ask a question.
You're trying to say that this was a political decision and it absolutely was not.
I'm just asking you. So it's just a coincidence that a $143 million subcontract went to the husband of your press person, also someone that Corey Lewandowski, one of your special government employees, worked with extensively. So that was all a coincidence, right? Because you had no knowledge of this, no involvement.
Media company that
and none
gets
of the people
contract,
around you had any involvement.
The ability to choose
so
the
taxpayers should just
subcontractors.
assume
We don't
this
weigh
is a
in
coincidence.
on who subcontractors are. There's not a legal process for us to determine what subcontractors are a part of a contract
So
that goes out for a competitive bid.
Can you state
and
for
only
the record,
career employees at
excuse me,
DHS were in on the choosing of those media
for the record
contracts.
then that neither you nor Mr. Lewandowski nor your press secretary married to the husband of the person who got this $143 million
We were not a part of the decision-making.
Can you state for the record that none of you that I've just described had any role, played any part, made any communication with any government agency that was involved in deciding who would get that contract?
To the best of my knowledge, none of us were involved in deciding who got those contracts
Not
for the media
deciding,
campaign.
but were any of you involved in advocating, communicating, or expressing a
Not
preference
to my knowledge,
in any
Senator,
way
not to
with
my
the government?
knowledge,
Excuse
Senator.
me. Let me just finish the question. Were any of you involved in any way in communicating, expressing a preference in any form, manner, verbal, written, with any government agency that was involved in the contracting
The
process?
same process was followed for that contract that is
You're
for
not
all
answering
media
my question.
contracts that have gone forward. To my knowledge,
or no?
there was no involvement whatsoever of anybody that is on the political appointee side of this position and that media contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
If I could just start with a Missouri question. Last time you and I visited over in the Homeland Security Committee was shortly following a massive series of tornadoes in the state of Missouri. And you and I talked about that. You pledged your full support and FEMA's support in cleaning up the devastation which has happened. I thank you for that. I just want to follow up on one challenge that has come in the wake of the devastation. In the partnership with the state of Missouri, the city of St. Louis has stood up a debris removal project. Local officials currently estimate that about 10,000 homes, these were very significant tornadoes, about 10,000 homes in the area will require some assistance, debris removal assistance, by the time that efforts are completed. FEMA has very helpfully helped to fund this debris removal. Thank you for that. My question for you is, some of the conditions that have been placed on the funds by FEMA mean that only 100 or 200 homes out of those 10,000 can actually get access to FEMA debris removal funds. Here's my question for you. Would you be willing to work with me and the state of Missouri to see if we can remove some of this red tape so that more folks, more residents in the city, we're talking about thousands and thousands of people now, can get access to the debris removal and cleanup and get back in their homes if they need to, have their homes appropriately remedied so that folks can get a roof over their head?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Thank you again for all of your help on this. It's really been tremendous. I've heard a lot of complaining. You've heard a lot of complaining today. Let's just take a second to talk about the unqualified success that you have enjoyed since coming to office and been a big part of. Since the president has taken office, daily migrant encounters are down 92% from their peak under Joe Biden. Daily border apprehensions are down 95%. In fact, if I've got my numbers right, you correct me if I'm wrong, last year Southwest border apprehensions came in at the lowest annual total since 1970. So in 55 years, for 7 consecutive months, Border Patrol has released 0 illegal aliens into the country. 0. I mean, that is really something. And I want to make sure I get this number right. Removals. Your department reports that more than 2.5 million illegal aliens have left the United States since January of last year, over 620,000 through formal deportation proceedings, and an estimated 1.9 million through self-deportation. That's just an extraordinary record, a complete turnaround from the utter chaos and disaster we saw at the border under your predecessor. Just give us a sense, I mean, what does this mean, for example, for the flow of illegal drugs into our country? How has what's happened at the border, the effective closing of the border to crime and illegals, how's that affected the flow of drugs into
Senator,
our states?
with President Trump prioritizing having a secure border, that has cut the flow of fentanyl into this country by 56% over that border. Also because of the interdiction efforts that we've had between the Coast Guard being out there on Operation Riverwall, but also on our maritime waters doing interdiction there as well, in partnership with CBP, in partnership with ICE and the Department of War, which are fantastic partners for us. We have confiscated and interdicted over 1.7 billion lethal doses of drugs, which means that is 1.7 billion people whose lives were saved because we stopped the cartels and other drug manufacturers from proliferating it on our children and our grandchildren.
How about crime? What has it meant for crime in this country?
We have historic low crime rates. In fact, since we've been keeping this data for 125 years, we've never had a lower murder rate than what we have right now. Even though we deal with challenges in sanctuary cities and in areas where they don't partner with us to bring and address public safety threats, we still have done fantastic work in getting criminals, murderers, and rapists off of our streets and protecting the American people.
How about human trafficking?
It's incredible the amount of ability that HSI has brought to the table in partnering with the FBI and going after human traffickers. In fact, of the 450,000 children that Joe Biden lost track of, allowed cartels to manipulate and traffickers to abuse, and even the government paid sponsors to abuse these children. We have found 145,000 of them, and we're not going to stop until we find every single one.
I'm glad that you mentioned child trafficking because it's so important, and I'll never forget having a whistleblower from HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, which you oversee, come to me in 2023 and reveal that 600 HSI investigators who were assigned to child exploitation and fentanyl cases, 600 of them had been pulled off of those child exploitation and fentanyl cases and moved to the southern border to, in the words of the whistleblower, make sandwiches for illegal immigrants and ferry them back and forth to doctor's appointments. at the same time that the administration in power at the time, the Biden administration, was, as you said, allowing and facilitating the largest child trafficking ring in American history. You have, I'm confident, remedied that problem and reassigned those HSI agents back to child exploitation, back to the interdiction of fentanyl. Let me just ask you about where child trafficking is moving now, which is increasingly online. I want to show you a chart here that is truly shocking, I think. This chart records the number of images and videos of suspected child abuse uploaded just in the United States, just in the year 2023. The far right side records the number just in 2023, 104,370,572 images of exploited children. In that same year, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children estimated that there were 20,500,000 cases, individual cases of suspected child abuse and child exploitation online. Now, there are many facets of this, but many of these images are being hosted on big tech platforms, social media platforms, and now AI platforms. We've talked about Homeland Security investigations. You have a mandate and a unit to investigate child exploitation, to work with the FBI to prosecute it. My question is, first, are you getting cooperation when it comes to identifying the children in these images? Are you getting cooperation from the social media platforms who frequently are hosting these images to identify and then to take down the images? Are they helping you in your work of going after the abusers?
Yes, they are partnering with us. There's always more we can do, but President Trump has done a fantastic job bringing them to the table and getting them to engage with us to go after these criminals and these individuals who abuse our children.
You know, my big concern is with all of these data centers, I think there's 3,000 or 4,000 in the United States and another 4,000 that are coming online. If we don't take action soon and keep the pressure up to get rid of these images and to get the trafficking rings that are using these platforms to carry on their exploitation and to feed their trafficking rings, if we don't do that, I'm afraid that these data centers are going to be child porn libraries. You know, we're going to have 4,000 more child porn libraries in the United States of America. I don't want that. I know that you don't want that. And I just want to call on these companies again here today to take down these images and to allow the victims of these images and of this exploitation to be able to get into court and have their day in court. Currently, these companies are completely immune from any accountability in court, as you know, Madam Secretary. This is completely anomalous and totally unjust. And the companies ought to say, we will take down these images, we will work cooperatively with you, we will not support the traffickers, and we will stop this epidemic of child exploitation. Let me ask you one more thing about this. You know, with all of these images of kids online, I was shocked to learn recently that hundreds of thousands of children in these images are unidentified, which means that we don't know who they are, we don't know where they are, and maybe most significantly, we don't know where their abusers are. Now, I know that DHS works very hard on this. You have an entire section that works on victim identification and rescue. My question is to you, is it time for Congress maybe to give you some more resources?
Yeah,
I know that you've got agents who are working hard, but the truth of the matter is, I was looking through your budget, you know, you just don't have that many folks who are able to work on victim identification. I was looking at the Interpol numbers. There's multiple databases of these exploited children. In the Interpol database alone, 90,000 kids are completely unidentified. In the UK's database, it's over 200,000. So here are these kids. There are pictures of them getting abused, exploited. We don't know who they are. We don't know where to send folks. Would it be helpful to you? Here's my question. Would it be helpful to you if Congress said, you know what, we're going to create more analysts, more child abuse expert positions, more forensic analysts, and more prosecutors to give to you to look at these images, figure out who these kids are, and go after their abusers? Would that be helpful in tackling this epidemic?
Yes, it'd be incredibly helpful, and especially HSI are experts at this work, and to have more resources to focus on these investigations would free more kids from that life of victimhood.
Tremendous. Well, I look forward to working with you on that. I'm going to introduce legislation to do just that. Thank you for the terrific work you're doing to end the epidemic of child exploitation in our country, to find the missing children that were brought in over the border, but also to find these children and to bring their abusers to justice. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Welch.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the families that are here and you have my condolences. We appreciate your participation. I'd also like to acknowledge others who've lost their lives as a result of violence that did occur with ICE agents. Second, on the question of, Madam Secretary, welcome. On the question of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, I heard your answers to my colleague, Senator Schiff. But knowing what you do know, do you want to take an opportunity to apologize to their families that you characterized them on the basis of the information you had at the time, that they were engaged in domestic terrorism?
Yeah, I certainly offer my condolences to these families and for their loss. And it was a tragic situation that we saw in Minneapolis, and we continue to work to make sure that those situations are handled appropriately.
Question. I understand you're offering condolences. You said something that accused them of being domestic terrorists. A 37-year-old mother of three, a 37-year-old Veteran Administration nurse. One question, do you want to apologize for that characterization that they were domestic terrorists?
I will continue every day to get up and to work hard to give everybody factual information and do all that I can to portray it.
I want to move on to the use of department resources. Senator Kennedy asked a number of questions about this contract, $220 million. Senator Schiff asked about it as well, and I do too. I don't want to question what the purpose was, but how the award was made. This is $220 million. It was an advertising campaign, as I understand it, that featured you, and you on a horse at Mount Rushmore. The contract was a no-bid contract. You acknowledge that?
I wasn't involved with this contracting process, so my understanding is that there was many companies that competed for this contract.
The answer to that is yes or no.
I don't believe it was. I believe other companies competed for this because there was two different vendors that were chosen.
I have here a document from usspending.gov. And this document specifically states the justification for no bid contract that goes to Safe America Media and People Who Think. Those are the two entities that did the campaign, correct?
I believe it is. I wasn't a part of this contracting process.
Let's get serious here.
Yes.
Okay. Make the Safe America was incorporated 11 days or 7 days by my count before they got an award of $143 million. You have any dispute with that?
Are you talking about the subcontractor on that contract? Because we have
Safe America.
Senator, I wasn't a part of this decision.
Okay.
We followed the same processes that have been our policies and how this was conducted appropriately.
I will go through this and then you can answer. I don't want us to be talking over each other. Safe America was incorporated 11 days or 7 days by my account before they got a $143 million contract. Now, as an administrator who has fiscal responsibility over a huge budget, do you realistically think that a company that was created 11 days before they got $143 million is in a position to execute on a $143 million contract?
Senator, I can't speak to their business model. I will tell you that since I've been at the department, I have reviewed over 10,000 contracts.
Okay,
I have saved the taxpayers over $13 billion
I want to go through this,
by
Madam
renegotiating
Secretary.
contracts and being more efficient.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want the filibuster. All right? And I want my time back.
What's up, chat? What's up, chat? We got 500 people in the building.
I'm not denying
Subscribe to the channel, chat.
Answer. I'm
you
asking
right
you
here
to
and we
deny
just
her
watching, reacting to
the
this.
abuse, to filibuster.
Subscribe to the channel. Thank y'all for joining. I'm your host, the one and only Stock Sniper. Thank y'all for joining. We just kicked back and we are watching and reacting to Kristi Noem testimony. So at this time, subscribe to the channel. Do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'll go through this, all right? This is on a U.S. government website that says that contract for $143 million was a no-bid contract. Public documentation says the contract of $143 million went to the Safe America company, created 11 days before they got an award.
We need all 500
That
people
company then
hit that subscribe
subcontracted
button
with the strategy
and cut
group.
on all
And you are
notification bells.
familiar with many of the principles in the
know
strategy group,
when
correct?
we are live.
I know one of them.
Mr. Yoho.
Yes.
And let me show you a photograph. That's Mr. Yoho standing next to you, correct?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Yoho is also the husband of your former spokesperson. Is that correct?
Correct.
Tricia McLaughlin.
Yes.
So your former assistant secretary and her husband are the ones that got the subcontract from Safe America, or from Safe America. That's what the record shows. Any dispute about that?
No, except there was no politicals, myself or anyone else besides career employees who are a part of that process.
Except
for putting out those
Well,
contracts and
that's
choosing
generous,
those vendors.
But what you have is the Republican operative.
Well, you're trying to insinuate that
I'm not
I put
insinuating.
my-
I'm
Yes,
stating a
you're-
fact. The fact is
You're saying that I weighed
Mr.
in on this
Yoho-
contracting process and I did not.
Mr. Chairman, the fact is that Mr. Yoho was married to your assistant secretary, is married, correct?
Yes, they are still married.
All right. And Mr. Yoho also ran an ad campaign for you in your gubernatorial campaign, correct?
Yes.
And he also attended your inauguration.
Yes.
And Mr. Yoho received $8.5 million, or his company did, from the taxpayers of South Dakota when you ran an ad promotion showing you doing various jobs, like a plumber and a dentist, correct?
Again, that was done according to the law and processes at the state of South
I
Dakota.
understand, but
Yes,
this
well-
is a person that worked on your campaign. This is a person that worked on your media plan in South Dakota when you were governor. And this is a person who also worked on your memoir. Is that correct?
On my memoir?
And he worked with Mr. Lewandowski. Is that correct?
I don't know, sir. I don't know about the business
Mr.
arrangements they've had in the
Lewandowski
past.
is your special advisor.
Special government employee.
Right.
For the White
and
House.
Mr. Lewandowski brought Mr. Yoho into your camp. They had worked on the Louisiana governor's campaign, correct?
No, I knew Ben Yoho before that.
All right. So the person that you knew, Mr. Yoho, the husband of your assistant secretary, is the person in the company that got the subcontract 11 days after this original company, Safe America, was founded. That's the record. So I have a question. Did Mr. Lewandowski receive any compensation directly or indirectly from Safe America or from the strategy group?
Senator, I don't have any information to that. I can't speak to that.
Would that be of interest
think so.
for you to find out?
Sure.
Well, so will you ask Mr. Lewandowski, did he get any compensation directly or indirectly from these contracts?
Are you asking me to go ask him?
Yes, I am. Ask your special government advisor,
I can do that.
and you'll get back to us.
Get back to you. Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
we will want that. Now, you said at a cabinet meeting on March 24th that we are going to eliminate FEMA. Is that correct?
Eliminate FEMA as we know it, that it was no longer going to be a politicized disaster response
Madam-
agency, that President Trump was
Madam
going to ensure that
Secretary,
it was there to respond.
We need FEMA reform. The people of Vermont have suffered. We had floods on July 14th of 2023, 2024, and 2025. We need local control. We can't have a FEMA that is abolished or a secretary that promotes abolishing FEMA and not providing services that our citizens in all our states need when they're on the receiving end of a monster storm.
FEMA has been responding twice as fast than it ever has in history and empowering states and local emergency management directors to respond.
I saw
we
the
as
graph
well.
that,
We've
Mr.
had-
Chairman, I yield back.
Okay. Three things before I call on Senator. Did you have a couple minutes you wanted to address something, or should I go on?
No, that's fine. I just would like to say that FEMA has gone forward and done 60 different emergency disasters, 41 major disasters, and that they have overwhelmingly responded and taken care of American citizens and removed the politicization that Joe Biden put into the agency. I'm proud of the work that FEMA has done. They've deployed dollars immediately and responded and partnered with other agencies to save people such as the Coast Guard and CBP in the flooding situations in Texas, and have continued to make sure that while local emergencies are executed at the local level, that they're managed by states and that the federal government is there to support.
The Department of Homeland Security shutdown is now in its third week. It should come as no surprise that the Democrats opposed enforcement of our immigration laws. They did so for 4 years when they controlled the White House. Just last week, they refused to stand and support President Trump's call to protect American people during the State of the Union. But Homeland Security includes other critical entities like Secret Service, FEMA, TSA, Coast Guard that Democrats refuse to fund and whose workers aren't getting paid. The primary responsibility of the federal government is to keep the American people safe. So it's critical that Democrats fund DHS in the end of this reckless political exercise. The hearing record will remain open for 1 week. Members should get their questions to the secretary at the end of the week. My expectation is that the department will answer the committee's questions for the record. Senator Noem, Secretary Noem, Senator Cruz is going to adjourn this meeting.
Okay.
I'm going to go to another meeting. I thank you for your appearance today. Senator Cruz.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary.
Yes, hi, Senator.
Congratulations on a grueling morning. I am the last thing between you and returning to work. Let me start by saying thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for accepting the charge to protect this nation at a time of enormous peril and at a time, sadly, of far too much politicization and demonization of the Department of Homeland Security. The Department of Homeland Security was founded in the wake of the September 11th attacks, after nearly 3,000 Americans were murdered on our soil. It exists because we learned at terrible cost that vigilance is not optional. And the success of vigilance is quiet and often ignored. It is measured not in headlines, but the absence of them. The flights that land safely. The plots that never materialize. The threats that are intercepted before they reach our communities. Like sentinels standing watch at the walls of a city, the men and women of DHS guard the homeland day and night with extraordinary dedication and professionalism. And yet, over the past 18 days, Democrats have shut down the very department tasked with that mission, weaponizing the budget process to advance political disagreements. The same voices that once called to abolish ICE and defund the police have now left the sentinels unsupported and the watchtower dark. That is what the Democrat shutdown has done. Let's get to the truth. For the American people, this oversight hearing is about three things: where we were, what has been accomplished, and where we need to go next. Let's start with where we were. Secretary Noem, when you walked into DHS, what was the state of operational control at the southern border that you inherited?
There was no operational control. In fact, our Border Patrol agents and federal officers were being forced to help facilitate the invasion of dangerous criminals and aliens into our country.
Were daily encounters at or near historic highs?
Yes, they absolutely were at historic highs. This is the worst we've ever seen.
Dirt Bird, you got to have over 50 subscribers to start going live. So if you don't have over 50 subscribers, you can't go live.
Between 2021 and 2024, the Biden administration released more than 13 million illegal aliens into this country after encountering them at the southern border. Is that correct?
Yes, that's that we know of. There could be millions more.
DHS data reflects during this period of mass releases into the interior, crimes committed by foreign nationals included at least 15,000 homicides and more than 20,000 sexual assaults. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I will say, these numbers are not abstractions. And I will say to all the Angel families here, thank you for being here. Thank you for holding the photographs of your children, of your spouses, of your parents, of your brothers and sisters who should be with you. Names like Jocelyn Nungary and Laken Riley and Rachel Marin. Jocelyn, just 12 years old, was killed just miles from my house. Raped and murdered by 2 Venezuelan gang members that the United States government had apprehended and then released. And when they were released, they traveled to Houston, Texas, and they kidnapped a 12-year-old girl and raped and murdered her. In your time at DHS, has anyone in the leadership of the previous administration explained why the hell they let so many violent criminals free in our country?
No, they haven't. In fact, under the Biden administration and Mayorkas's leadership, they closed the victim's office at ICE, the Voices office that would help families that suffered a loss like Jocelyn's family and Laken's family and Rachel's family. They had no resources, no way to track court appearances or to get counseling services, no support whatsoever. They purposely closed that down to punish these families even more.
So it wasn't just murderers and rapists that were being released in this country. The open border under the Democrats also became a pipeline for poison, killing our children. Secretary Noem, when you took office, is it correct that fentanyl was the leading cause of death for Americans between the age of 18 and 45?
That's correct.
Was the volume of fentanyl crossing our southern border at or near record levels?
Yes, it was.
And would you agree that when operational control collapses, cartels exploit that chaos?
They exploit it and they become enriched from it.
So now let's talk about what has been accomplished under President Trump's leadership. Under President Trump's leadership, we have had 0 illegal aliens released for 10 straight months. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In President Trump's first year back in office, how many illegal aliens have left the United States?
2.5 million have left voluntarily, and we have arrested, detained, and removed close to 700,000 now.
And how many known or suspected terrorists have been removed?
We have over 1,500 now today that have been apprehended and are being brought to justice.
In the first 100 days of the second Trump administration, is it correct that daily border encounters decreased by approximately 93%?
Yes, that is correct.
That encounters with gotaways those who are escaping apprehension decreased by roughly 95%.
That is correct.
And that illegal crossings overall fell by 99%.
That is correct.
And how much in illegal drugs are we interdicting at the border?
Well, fentanyl has dropped by 56% in just the last year, from 2024, where there was historic highs coming into the country, to historic lows in 2025 under President Trump's leadership.
And I would note that securing the border, targeting narco-terrorists, arresting and prosecuting Nicolas Maduro, all of those have had extraordinary effects. Is it correct that nationwide the murder rate has decreased 20% in the last year?
It has. It's at a historic low. In the last 125 years, we are at the lowest murder rate that our country's experienced.
Is it also correct that the number of drug overdose deaths in America has decreased 20% in the last year?
That is correct.
That literally means there are thousands of Americans who are alive today, who would not be alive if President Trump had not been reelected and if Republicans had not won control of Congress. Would you agree with that?
That is correct.
It means, tragically, that had the Democrats' open border policies continued, there would be more and more rows of people, Americans holding pictures of loved ones. We don't know who the loved ones are that weren't murdered this last year. We don't know who the loved ones were that didn't die of fentanyl overdoses, but we know that many more Americans are dead. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You know, I will tell you a particularly infuriating illustration. Several weeks ago, the Houston Chronicle had a front page story, top of the fold. Banner headline, murder rate in Houston, Texas decreases by 18%. And Heidi, my wife, handed me the article because she knew it would piss me off. And she was correct. The article says the murder rate has dropped 18%. Experts are baffled as to why, and we can think of no reason whatsoever why the murder rate would drop. It clearly is not connected to anything that is happening anywhere. Madam Secretary, is it a reasonable inference that arresting and deporting murderers and gangbangers results in fewer murders?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And that arresting and deporting drug traffickers and stopping narco traffickers results in fewer people dying of drug overdoses?
That's correct.
It is amazing that that cause and effect is so difficult to figure out. Now, where do we go from here? As we sit here today, are there Border Patrol agents right now working with zero pay?
The agents and law enforcement officers are being paid. Some of the support staff and administrative staff is not able to.
Is the shutdown making it harder to sustain the enforcement gains that the American people demanded?
Yes, it is.
Does the funding instability affect morale within the department?
It does. Overwhelmingly, people at the Department of Homeland Security love their jobs and come to work recognizing how important their mission is. But they become discouraged when they can't pay their bills and can't feed their families, and especially when they have multiple shutdowns, which tells them that members of this body and the Democratic Party don't think they're important enough to get paid for the work that they do.
Now, we are right now engaged in military conflict with Iran. At this time, do you assess?
Hold on, Chad. I had to stop it real quick. I got to thank everybody for joining, all the new subscribers, everybody that's been hitting the like button, everybody that's tuning in. I got to thank you at this time. We just kicking back, soaking in all this information. You know, we reacting to it. We giving our own perspective of what we think about this. And, you know, we just hanging out. It's just like we just watching a movie or something. That's what it's like, chat. We just kicking it together. That's what this is. So we need 437 people. We need y'all to subscribe to the channel at this time. This is the Freedom of Speech channel. We're going to carry on with the content. We're going to carry on with the stream. But at this time, we need 439 people to subscribe to the channel. It don't cost anything to subscribe to the channel. We sitting here kicking it, just soaking in this information. whether you think it's right or wrong. We all have an opinion. And this is the Freedom of Speech channel. So we need all 439 people to do us a great favor and subscribe to the channel. Hope y'all having a great, amazing day. Thank y'all for kicking it. Thank y'all for showing up. And let's continue. It looks like they're going to talk about the Iran at this point. So let's see what they're going to say, chat. Let me know in the comment section what you think about what they're talking about.
That there is a real danger and risk of terrorism in the United States?
Every day there's a real danger and risk of it, but it is elevated at this time with the conflicts that we see going on overseas.
Well, and tragically, this past Sunday in Austin, Texas, we saw that unfold. A mass murderer who arrived wearing a sweatshirt that said "Property of Allah," who was wearing a T-shirt with the flag of Iran, who had a Quran in his car, opened fire on a bar in Austin, Texas.
Hey, what's up, Germany?
Among those murdered, Ryder Harrington, age 19, Sabbath Hashan, age 21, and Jorge Peterson, age 30. Secretary Noem, is it correct that this mass murderer was born in Senegal?
He was, and then he was naturalized during the Obama administration.
He was naturalized in 2013. Would you agree that weaknesses in screening, vetting, or oversight, even in years in the past, can reverberate years later with deadly consequences?
Yes, absolutely. That's why in green cards and naturalization purposes, the last several years under the Biden administration, we are re-vetting individuals from countries of concern.
And despite the risk of more terrorism, of more Americans being murdered by radical Islamic terrorists, Democrats are nonetheless voting over and over again to cut off funding to the Department of Homeland Security.
Mm-hmm. And encouraging resistance against our law enforcement, encouraging violent rioters to continue to resist us and to protest against ICE and the operations that we do to uphold the law.
You know, it wasn't long ago that common sense prevailed, that there was bipartisan agreement, that we agreed we all support the police, we all support law enforcement, we all want to see criminals in jail, we believe murderers should be in jail, we believe rapists should be in jail, we believe child molesters should be in jail, we believe gangbangers should be in jail. Today, tragically, the Democrat Party has decided they are the party of illegal immigrants, they are the party of murderers and rapists and child molesters and gangbangers. And the men and women who are on the wall, the men and women who are defending us from these violent criminals, to the Democrats, they are the enemy. Mm-hmm. And they engage in rhetoric that is shameful, attacking Border Patrol agents, attacking ICE agents, calling them Nazis, calling them Gestapo, calling them terrorists, cheering on violence against law enforcement. It is utterly shameful. Where I want to speak to the men and women in your department, I want to speak to those Border Patrol agents, those ICE agents, all the men and women who are on that line. I want to say thank you. We appreciate you, your service, your courage. 31 million Texans say thank you. And by the way, the violence is occurring in Democrat states where it's cheered on by Democrat politicians.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
It is shameful. And Secretary Noem, I want to say thank you for getting up and going in and doing your job every day. Thank you for making my family safer. Thank you for making the families of 31 million Texans safer. Thank you for the honorable work of the Department of Homeland Security, and to everyone there, God bless you. And again, to the Angel families, thank you for speaking out and having the courage to say your loved ones mattered. They are not forgotten. I want to apologize on behalf of the federal government. Your loved ones should never have lost their lives. If the federal government had done its damn job, these murderers wouldn't be here. Thank you, Secretary Noem. And with that, I don't have a gavel, but this hearing is adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Well, it has concluded. It's over with, Chad.
For the honorable work of the Department of Homeland Security and to everyone there, God bless you. And again, to the...
Thank everybody for joining. It really was, it was 2 lives. The first live was 2 hours. This live was an hour and a half. A lot of information. A lot of information we just heard. So I thank y'all for joining. We got 300 people still in the building. Take the time out right now to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when we go live. So with that being said, I think I'm ending right here. It is lunchtime. Thank y'all for joining. Hope you'll have a great, amazing day. We did 2 lives today, so I don't think I'm going to go live again. I think this is the walk down and everything else all in one. Then again, you never know. I might go live again during, when I go exercise. I might just do that, chat. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. I hope you learned something. Whether you like it or not, I hope you learned something. We had a good time hanging out together. Thank y'all for joining. I had a good time reading all the comments. A lot of them are funny. And I appreciate y'all for just chilling with me and hanging out with me. Everybody got their own opinion, which is cool. That's why this is the Freedom of Speech channel. You can come over here and speak your opinion. If you like Trump, if you don't like Trump, whatever the case may be. We appreciate y'all. You could be anywhere else, but you here rocking with me. You here rocking with us. And we really appreciate that. Thank you to everybody that subscribed to the channel. Thank y'all for subscribing to the channel. Thank everybody for hitting the like button. Thank everybody. If you didn't subscribe and you didn't hit the like button and you didn't comment, we still thank you for coming, kicking it with us. We're just hanging out. We're just a bunch of people that are interested in the same things, whether it's one way or another. We're interested in this kind of stuff. And this is a channel where you can come, hang out, freedom of speech, speak your mind. We just a bunch of people hanging out like at the football game. It's really no difference. That's the type of channel this channel is. We just a bunch of guys, we hanging out at the football game. We hanging out, at a concert. We hanging out, just chilling. We just doing it online, which is cool. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate y'all. I appreciate everybody for coming. Whichever way you think. If you're on the left or if you're on the right or if you're in the middle or you just watching, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I can't say that enough. We're coming close to 10,000 subscribers. And once we get to 10,000 subscribers, we're doing a Cash App giveaway. We're doing the Cash App giveaway. I'm changing the name of the channel. We're going in another direction with the channel. And also, we're going to start pulling people up. That's the thing we're going to do. Once we get over 10,000 subs, we're going to do a Cash App giveaway. 1. Number 2, we're going to change the name of the channel. We already voted on the name change, and 70% of the people agree with the name change. So we're changing the name of the channel, and then we're going to start pulling people up, and we're going to start talking to the people. That's the goal. Once we get to 10K subs. So I think I'm ending right here, chat. We got 200 people still in the building. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the channel. We got amazing things coming up. Like I said, we're going to start pulling you guys up. A lot of you guys are always here. And I know that because YouTube Studio tells me 40% of the people that watch this channel comes back. So we're going to start pulling you guys up, so we can speak to one another, so we can talk. Not a debate, none of that kind of stuff. No arguing, no debating. Just people that are interested in the same thing, having great conversations. That's what we're going to do. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. So I think that's it, chat. We had 2 lives, great lives. We learned a lot. We learned a lot. So with that being said, I love and I appreciate y'all. This is the one and only Stock Sniper. Y'all have a great, amazing day. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and cut on the notification bells so you'll know when we go live. I love and I appreciate y'all. All new and old subscribers. I love and I appreciate y'all. Everybody that's commenting in the comment section, big salute. We love and we appreciate y'all. So with that being said, it's the one and only Stock Sniper. To the next one, I'm out.